So it's going to be another hot day in Oklahoma. It's supposed to be 110 degrees today. And, or at least the index, the heat index is going to be 110 degrees. And I thought I'd come out here for a little while and enjoy this water. But, you know, I wanted to talk to about something that has been bothering me a little bit lately. And last week I was listening to this podcast by this host, and he was a little bit uncomfortable with the topic because he said he didn't want to encourage a victim mentality. And, you know, I had to sit with that for a little while. And the reason why is because over the past couple of decades, there's been an awful lot of name calling when it comes to victims. And yeah, I said name calling. I'm going to read something here to you. The victim mentality phenomenon is described as a psychological mindset where a person consistently sees themselves as 1. A victim of the actions of others, 2. Often blaming external factors for their misfortunes, and 3. Feeling powerless to change their situation. Okay, let's start with the terminology here. The terminology is degrading. When somebody says victim mentality, it's almost as if they're labeling that person has created themselves as a victim, that they actually want to be a victim. And to be honest, nobody wants to be a victim. And I'm probably going to keep saying this throughout the video. The word victim is treated like a dirty word, as if the person it's attached to just pulled that situation out of their ass and stuck it to themselves to parade around for sympathy. I'm sorry, but that's not true. Again, nobody wants to be a victim, and they certainly don't want to carry that label because most of us knows what it implies. It implies weakness, and most of us don't want to be seen as weak. In reality, a victim is someone harmed through the actions of others or by situations beyond their control. And if a person is harmed consistently, and they see them, or if a person is harmed and consistently sees themselves as broken or still harmed, being a victim, it's because they haven't recovered from that situation or the trauma. It's a consistent mindset because the trauma is still present. I don't know how to say that any clearer. In an ideal situation, that other responsible for the harm should be held accountable, rather than the person harmed encouraged to get over it. But for healing, a community has to acknowledge the harm, and the person harmed can take it from there. If this isn't done, at least to some degree, that victim kind of remains in a mental limbo, constantly replaying scenes in their head and blaming themselves for the situation. And I'm going to say again, victim is not a dirty word. It describes someone who needs to heal. To treat it otherwise is an injustice to those suffering, and it prolongs that suffering. Now, as someone who has been traumatized by others and studies this kind of behavior, I like to think I have a grasp on the situation. Though I need to disclaim that I am a bit biased here. It's a fine line we walk while discussing this topic, and because so much of it sounds and feels like victim blaming. Again, I know I keep repeating myself, but no one wants to be a victim. Unfortunately, there are enough predators in the world to make sure there are very few untouched by violence or trauma in one form or another. Now, Somewhere in his writing, George Orwell wrote that one of the worst things a human can do is to lie to themselves, but we consistently do it. That said, I'm going to make this a little bit personal. I make excuses for lies that I tell myself. They keep me afloat mentally in the moment, because moments are what I have. And that is, I live one moment to the next because my life has been unstable for so long. And I don't know how others deal with their circumstances or situations, but I've adapted. I've done this for a long time. And though it's not a preference or comfortable, there's an understanding one comes to in living this way. Look at that. First and foremost, humans are predators. If they smell blood or see weakness, they will seek a way to exploit that weakness. And I think there are very few exceptions to this. I know every day, all day, what my shortcomings are, what challenges I face, and what got me here. But there are moments I tell myself challenges are temporary, life gets better, and some of my work is going to sell. And I go back and forth on whether I'm lying to myself or just delusional. I still have hope for the future, and I'm grateful for that at my age. And so here we are. I've been a victim, and I still deal with trauma, and don't know if that's going to change at my age. Probably not. It probably won't. What I do know is that I will never be somebody's victim again. I'm not just harder on people. I'm sharper. I cut through bullshit, and I expect transparency. And these days, there are very few people in my life. I am a victim, and I won't be shamed for someone else's misdeeds. I sit with the trauma and work on it when I can. I have shortcomings, but no one can honestly tell me I choose to be a victim because the trauma hasn't healed. That's a wrong created by our social fabric. That's all.